Your cat is somewhere in that house right now. Maybe curled up on the couch. Maybe sitting by the window staring at something you can't see. Maybe you haven't spotted them in hours and you told yourself they just like their space. And that right there, that's exactly where the problem begins. Because science has spent decades quietly building a case that most cat owners never want to hear. Cats have a deep and complex emotional life. They feel loneliness. They feel rejection. They feel something that can genuinely be called a broken heart. And they will never once tell you about it. They won't cry at the door. They won't follow you around whimpering. They won't do anything obvious enough to make you stop and pay attention. Instead, they disappear, slowly, quietly, one small withdrawal at a time. And they wait. They wait to see if you'll notice what they're too proud to ask for out loud. Think about what that actually means. Your cat cannot point to a problem, cannot send you a message, cannot ask for help. Everything they feel gets locked inside. And the only thing standing between them and that silent suffering is you, is whether you're paying close enough attention. But here's what makes this so painful. The habits that hurt them most aren't the obvious ones. They're not neglect. They're not cruelty. They're the small, everyday, completely well-intentioned things you do without a second thought. You wake them up because they look too cute to leave alone. You end the play session when you get bored. You talk to them the way you talk to people. You think it's love, and in your mind, it is. But in your cat's experience, it's something else entirely. Today, we're going through 15 of those things. 15 specific science-backed moments where your normal daily behavior is quietly breaking your cat's trust, their health, or their sense of safety. Each one comes with an explanation and a fix you can start using today. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. Number 14 is the one that matters most. I'm flagging it early because it's the one that could literally save your cat's life. If you only stay for one thing, let it be that. But stay for all 15, because every single one of them is something your cat is waiting for you to understand. Let's get into it. Number 1, you never give them window access. Picture what your cat's day actually looks like when you leave for work. The door closes, the house goes still, no movement, no sound, no change. For you, that might sound peaceful. For your cat, it's something much closer to sensory deprivation. Cats are wired at a biological level to observe the world. Their eyes detect motion with a precision that puts human vision to shame. Their brains are built to track, process, and respond to visual information from the environment around them. A window isn't a luxury for a cat, it's a biological lifeline. Research on captive felines, including large cats studied in zoo environments, consistently shows that visual access to an active outdoor setting dramatically reduces stress behaviors and measurably improves psychological well-being. Your house cat shares the same ancient wiring. When you block the windowsill with furniture, keep the blinds down all day, or simply never thought to give them a view, you're cutting off their primary source of mental stimulation. That cat sitting motionless, staring at the wall for an hour isn't meditating. They're understimulated and slowly losing their grip on mental equilibrium. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Clear a spot on the sill, put something soft there, point it toward anything that moves. A bird feeder nearby makes it even better. That one change can completely transform their daily experience.
Number 2, you interrupt their sleep cycles regularly. I know how it happens. They're curled into a perfect little ball, warm and soft and absolutely irresistible. So you pick them up, you squeeze them, you kiss the top of their head because you simply cannot help yourself. To you, it feels like a moment of love. To their nervous system, it registers as a threat arriving without warning. Cats sleep between 12 and 16 hours a day, and that sleep is not negotiable. During deep sleep, their brain processes emotions, regulates hormones, and rebuilds energy reserves. When you break into a deep sleep cycle abruptly, the body floods with adrenaline. That wide-eyed, slightly tense cat blinking at you after you wake them isn't being dramatic. They are genuinely physiologically stressed. Do this consistently, and you create an animal that never fully rests. One that sleeps with half an eye open because experience has taught them that even rest isn't safe here. Chronic sleep disruption in cats is linked to weakened immune response, increased irritability, and a gradual erosion of their sense of security in their own home. The place that should be their greatest comfort becomes a place where nothing is reliable. Real love sometimes looks like leaving them alone, like waiting for them to come to you on their own terms.
Number 3. You end play sessions without closing the loop. Imagine someone invites you onto a dance floor. The music's playing, you're fully in it, and then, without a word, they just walk away mid-song. No ending, no wind down, just gone. That's your cat's experience every time you cut play short without a proper finish. Play for a cat is not entertainment. It is a complete biological sequence with a specific architecture. It begins with stalking, moves into pursuit, builds to the strike, and has to end with a capture. That final moment, biting the toy, shaking it, feeling the simulated victory of the hunt, is not optional. It's the neurological signal that tells the brain the loop is closed. The hunt is done. The body can stand down. When you yank the toy away and drop it in a drawer mid-session, that loop stays open. The arousal has nowhere to go, and it redirects toward your ankles, toward other pets in the house,
toward what looks like random aggression that comes out of nowhere. Animal behaviorists call this redirected aggression, and it is one of the most common and most preventable behavioral issues in domestic cats. The root of it, almost always, is someone who kept starting the hunt and never let it finish. Always end a play session with a proper catch. Let them bite it. Let them wrestle it. Let them win. Then offer a small treat right after, which mirrors the eating phase that follows a real hunt. Close the loop every single time.
Number 4. The carrier only appears before vet visits. Your cat doesn't need to see the carrier to know something's wrong. Sometimes just the sound of the closet door where it lives is enough, and suddenly they're gone, under the bed. And you spend the next 20 minutes negotiating with an animal that has apparently developed the strength of 5 cats combined. Why does this happen? Because you trained it to. Every single time that carrier has appeared in their life, it was followed by something terrifying. A tight box, a loud moving vehicle, strange overwhelming smells, unknown hands, examination, needles, and then home again, shaking and exhausted. You repeated that pattern so many times that the carrier itself became the trigger. Just seeing it now activates the same fear response as the vet visit. That's not stubbornness. That's textbook classical conditioning, and you built it entirely by accident, with the best intentions. The fix is to completely break that association.
Leave the carrier out permanently. Put a soft blanket inside. Drop treats into it randomly, no occasion required. Let them wander in and out on their own schedule. Sleep in it, claim it. When the carrier stops being a signal of doom and becomes just another unremarkable piece of furniture, the panic dissolves. Studies confirm that cats comfortable with their carrier show measurably lower cortisol levels throughout vet visits and recover faster afterward. Turn the object of their greatest fear into just another nap spot.
And if you're recognizing your own habits in any of this, drop a number in the comments right now. Just a number. How many of these have you been doing? 1, 3, 7? I'm genuinely curious what people are seeing in themselves. Number 5. You pull away when they try to groom you. There's a specific moment that happens between a cat and the human they truly trust. The cat starts licking your hand, maybe your wrist, maybe your hair, and you pull away because it's scratchy or a little weird, or you just weren't expecting it. Maybe you even laugh and move on. What you just did was reject one of the most intimate gestures your cat is capable of making. Mutual grooming between cats, what researchers call allo-grooming, is reserved exclusively for individuals a cat considers part of their innermost circle. It's not a habit, it's not random. It's a deliberate, emotionally significant act that communicates something very specific. I trust you completely. I want you to be well. You are mine. When your cat attempts to groom you, they are placing you inside that circle. And when you consistently pull away, you're not just declining the grooming, you're declining the relationship it represents. Over time, a cat that is repeatedly rebuffed in these intimate moments learns to stop offering them. Not out of indifference, out of self-protection. Why extend trust that's never received? The next time your cat starts to groom you, stay still for just a moment, even a few seconds. Accept the gesture. Let them finish at least one slow pass before you gently redirect. That acknowledgement is everything they need. Number 6. You feed them the exact same food every single day for years. This one feels responsible, consistent, like good caretaking, but it's actually a form of sensory monotony that gradually undermines both the physical health and psychological well-being of your cat. In the wild, a cat's diet is radically varied. Birds, rodents, insects, reptiles. Every meal is a different flavor, a different texture, a completely different nutritional profile. Their digestive system and their experience of food was built around that variety. When you lock them into the same single protein, same brand, same texture twice a day for years, two harmful things happen simultaneously. First, the digestive system becomes so adapted to one formula that introducing anything new triggers refusal or gastrointestinal distress. Veterinary nutritionists call this food fixation, and if that food is ever discontinued, or if your cat develops an intolerance to it, you're in serious trouble with no easy way out. Second, and this is the part almost nobody talks about, you're taking away the one daily experience that should bring them genuine pleasure and sensory engagement. Food is stimulation. Variety is enrichment. Rotate proteins. Change up textures. Introduce novelty slowly and watch your cat rediscover that mealtime can actually be exciting. Number 7. You speak to them too loudly and too close. A cat's hearing is something that's genuinely difficult to fully appreciate from a human perspective. They detect frequencies ranging from 48 Hz all the way up to 85 kHz. Humans cap out at around 20 kHz. Their ears contain 32 independent muscles that rotate like satellite dishes, scanning the environment continuously for the faintest signals. That extraordinary sensory equipment was built for a world of whispers, rustles, and subtle environmental cues. It was not built for regular close-range exposure to a human voice at full volume. When you call your cat's name across the room at full projection, when you take a phone call on speaker right next to them, when the television runs all day at high volume in the background, you're not creating ambient noise. You're creating a sensory environment that is genuinely uncomfortable for an animal with this level of auditory sensitivity. Research links chronic loud sound exposure in cats to elevated cortisol, heightened startle responses, and increased social withdrawal. That cat who quietly leaves the room when you get on a loud phone call isn't being antisocial. They're protecting themselves from a discomfort you can't even fully perceive. Speak to your cat the way you'd speak to someone you love, softly, warmly. Try whispering their name sometime and watch what happens. You'll see something that'll catch you off guard. Now here's one that almost no one talks about openly, and it might be one of the most impactful things on this entire list. Number 8. You never give them a proper hiding spot. Safety for a cat is not about being held. It's not about proximity to you. It's about having somewhere to go when the world gets to be too much. This is one of the most fundamental psychological needs of the domestic cat, and one of the most consistently overlooked by well-meaning owners who misread the need to hide as rejection or sulking. In the wild, a cat without a hiding place is a cat exposed to threat from every angle. The ability to disappear is not a personality quirk. It is a survival mechanism so deeply embedded in feline neurology that even the most confident, well-socialized house cat needs to know they have somewhere safe to vanish. Feline welfare research consistently documents that cats with access to hiding spots in stressful environments show significantly lower cortisol levels, recover from stress faster, and engage more freely in social behavior than cats without them. The paradox is simple. The more you honor their need to hide, the more freely they come to you on their own. When you pull them out from under the bed because you want closeness, when you follow them into their corner with good intentions, when there's not a single place in your home where they can feel invisible and untouchable, you're telling them their needs don't exist here. Give them a box, a covered bed in a quiet corner, a shelf tucked away from foot traffic, and when they go there, leave them completely alone. That is the language of safety. Number 9. You touch their whiskers or let their food bowl press against them. This sounds trivial. It might even seem funny that it's on this list at all, but it belongs here because it happens in millions of homes every single day, and almost no one understands the damage being done. A cat's whiskers are not decorative. They are precision sensory instruments embedded deep in the skin, packed with nerve endings that connect directly to the sensory processing center of the brain. They detect air pressure changes, spatial information, proximity to objects, and micro vibrations in the surrounding environment. They are essentially a second nervous system living on your cat's face. When you touch them, bend them, or compress them, you send a chaotic flood of false signals cascading through that entire system. It doesn't tickle, it doesn't feel endearing, it feels profoundly disorienting and deeply unpleasant. Cats with chronically compressed whiskers, including cats whose food bowls are too narrow and press against the whiskers during every single meal, develop what's known as whisker fatigue, a state of sensory overstimulation that leads to stress, food aversion, and escalating irritability. Check your cat's food bowl right now. It should be wide and shallow enough that the whiskers clear the edges completely during eating. And keep your fingers away from their face. Admire those whiskers from a distance. They are one of the most remarkable pieces of biological engineering in the animal kingdom.
Number 10. You let strangers approach them directly. Your guest walks in the door, spots your cat across the room, and immediately moves toward them with an outstretched hand and a wide smile. Your cat sees something completely different. They see a large creature moving directly at them, making sustained eye contact, leaning forward, reaching out. In feline body language, that combination of direct gaze, frontal approach, looming posture, and extended limb are the behavioral signatures of a predator. Every element of the typical human greeting is a red flag to a cat reading the situation through millions of years of predator-prey wiring. The cat that bolts isn't unfriendly, they're being completely rational. Something large just approached them head-on with eye contact and a reaching arm. Their response is appropriate. The problem isn't the cat. The problem is that you let it happen and said nothing. You are your cat's only advocate in that room.
When someone moves toward your cat without an invitation, it is your job to intervene. To say, actually, let them come to you. To sit down, ignore the cat, and let curiosity do the work that force never can. A cat that chooses to approach a stranger is a cat that's been given agency. That interaction will always be better than anything forced on them. Number 11. You leave the house in complete silence every day. When you leave, you probably turn everything off. No music, no television, no voices, just silence. And you might even feel good about it, thinking you're giving them peace. You're not giving them peace. You're giving them something their nervous system was never designed to handle comfortably. In the natural world, complete silence is actually a warning signal. It means something has caused every other creature to go quiet. It means danger may be near. The ambient sounds of a living environment, birdsong, wind, distant voices, rustling, are information that tells a cat the world is active and therefore safe. Research on sound enrichment in shelter cat populations showed that appropriate auditory stimulation, calming music, nature soundscapes, soft human voices, significantly reduced stress behaviors and increased resting and play. Before you leave in the morning, turn something on. A nature documentary at low volume, a playlist designed around frequencies cats find calming, a podcast with quiet conversation in the background. Give them the sound of a living world and let them rest inside it rather than against the weight of unnatural silence.
Number 12. You rearrange their belongings without any transition. You reorganize the living room. You wash their favorite blanket and put it in a different corner. You shift the food bowl a few inches. You threw out that worn-out toy they hadn't touched in weeks anyway. And then you're genuinely confused when your cat spends the next 3 days acting unsettled, hiding more than usual, and eating inconsistently. What you experienced as a simple refresh, they experienced as territorial disruption. Cats are territorial in a way that goes far beyond simple preference for familiar spaces. Their territory is a living map of scent markings, established visual landmarks, known routes, and sensory anchors that together constitute their entire sense of safety and predictability. Every object that belongs to your cat carries their scent, and therefore their ownership. Every corner they've rubbed against is a page in that map.
When you remove or relocate elements of that map without transition, you don't inconvenience them. You destabilize their entire sense of where they are and whether they're safe. When changes are necessary, make them slowly. Preserve scent-marked items as long as possible. Introduce one change at a time. Understand that what looks like simple redecorating to you is a seismic shift in the only world they know. Number 13. You only engage with them on your schedule, never theirs. You come home tired. You've been unavailable all day. And now that you finally have a moment, you want cat time. You call them. Nothing. You go find them. They walk the other way. You pick them up anyway, and 30 seconds later, they're on the floor again, and you feel rejected. But here's what was actually happening all day. Your cat tried to connect with you at the morning coffee, sat beside you at your desk, brushed against your leg in the kitchen, and you were too distracted to notice or respond. Now that you want connection, that window has closed. They moved on. Cats have windows of social readiness that open and close throughout the day based on their internal rhythms, energy levels, and emotional state. These windows are often subtle, a slow approach with a tail held high, a quiet sit beside you without demanding anything, a gentle head press against your hand while you're standing at the counter.
These are invitations. These are your cat saying, right now, in this specific moment, I want to be near you. When you consistently miss these windows and override them by forcing contact on your own timeline, you teach your cat that their social signals have no effect. The gentle approaches stop. The quiet invitations stop. They learn that connection in this home happens randomly and without regard for how they feel. So they stop asking. Learn to read the invitations. Answer them in the moment they're offered.
We're almost there. Only 2 left. And number 14 is the one I told you about at the very beginning, the one that changes everything. Don't go anywhere. Number 14. You mistake their withdrawal for independence. Your cat has been hiding more lately. They used to meet you at the door. Now they're somewhere in the back of the house when you come home. They used to sleep on the couch near you. Now you rarely see them at all. They're eating a little less, moving a little slower, and you've told yourself the story that feels easiest to believe. They're just being a cat. They want their space. This is just their personality. Please hear this. A cat that withdraws is not a cat that's thriving. Hiding is not a personality. Hiding is a symptom. Cats are hardwired by evolution to mask vulnerability with extraordinary discipline. In the wild, a sick or injured cat that shows weakness becomes prey, so they suppress signs of illness and pain with a level of consistency that is genuinely remarkable. They will continue to eat, to groom, to move around and function long past the point where the suffering has become serious. Because every instinct they carry tells them, never let anything see that you are not okay. By the time a cat stops masking, by the time the hiding becomes impossible to explain away, the illness is often already advanced. The cat that retreated into the corner is not asking for space. They are asking you to notice, to look past the surface behavior and ask, what has changed? To be the one living creature on this earth who knows them well enough to hear the silence beneath the silence. Book the vet appointment today. Not next week, not when things get worse, today. You are their voice. You are their only advocate, and the greatest thing you will ever do for the animal that has loved you without conditions or complaint is simply this. Pay attention. Number 15. You never create a ritual for ending the day together. This might sound simple, maybe even a little sentimental, but it matters more deeply than it might appear on the surface. Cats are creatures of ritual. Their sense of security is built on predictability, on knowing what comes next and trusting that the world is stable. And one of the most powerful rituals you can build with them is a calm, consistent way of closing each day. You don't have to hold them. You don't have to force closeness. It's about presence, about sitting in the same room each evening, putting the phone down, being still and available without expectation or agenda. Research into feline daily rhythms shows that cats living in homes with predictable evening routines display lower anxiety markers and stronger emotional attachment to their caregivers. Because predictability for a cat equals safety, and safety is love in the language they understand most deeply. Tonight, before you go to sleep, go find your cat. Sit somewhere nearby. Don't say anything, don't reach for them, just be there. Let them know the day is done and that everything is okay. That is enough. That is everything. You now have 15 things. 15 specific, actionable places where you can do something different starting today. Not tomorrow, not after you think about it, today. Pick one, just one, the one that landed hardest for you, and change it tonight. And if this gave you something real, if something here made you look at your cat differently, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I put a lot into making this worth your time, and there's more where this came from. Now tell me in the comments, which of these 15 hit you the hardest? Drop the number, one word. I want to know what people are actually sitting with after watching this. Your cat is somewhere in that house right now. Go find them, and this time, really look.